Yeah, so that was 2020, and then and your mom passed away this year.
Yeah, 7 weeks ago.
Yeah, 7 weeks. And then mom's your parents, your dad passed away first 2020.
No,
23.
Three,
Yeah.
March of 23.
Yeah,
and then,
so
and then mom this year, so 24.
Yeah, so it's really like within 5 years, like 4 of them. Yeah.
But I see them as graduated into with Jesus. We're sad because we don't get to see them for a short time, and then we'll join them whenever it's time. I was there and I went, "You were where, Dad?" He goes, "I was I was in heaven, fishing with Uncle Fred." And I went,
Fishing.
And,
So there's fish in heaven.
Yeah, there's fishing in heaven.
挑战您的价值观，返璞归真过生活。欢迎收看《10万个为什么》，我是你的好朋友路德。在节目一开始，提醒大家订阅我的频道，并打开小铃铛，千万不要错过每周五的精彩节目哦。
Welcome everyone. Da-dang. Today I have 2 special guests. They are really special, yeah, because they are actually my family members. They are my parents-in-law, yeah. So welcome Dad and Mom. This season I know you have experienced a lot of things, especially the loss. For me it's always kind of, I don't know what to do on funeral. For me it's kind of heavy, I feel heavy and sad. But since I went to the funeral of your family, and I really feel it's a different experience. It doesn't feel any sad or any heaviness. You know, I feel really touching. I feel loved. I feel joy. I feel peace. So I feel, wow, this is so different from the funeral in China. So I just want you guys to share a little bit about how you face the loss of your parents, and so how could you find that peace and joy on funeral? Your dad passed away in 2020?
2021.
So that's during the COVID.
That's the height of COVID.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people lost their family during that time. So was that shock for you, or what? Because that's the first time you lose.
You lost a parent. Yeah. It was, and it was pretty much trauma on top of that because we couldn't see him. They wouldn't let us into the hospital. We didn't get to talk to doctors. We had very, very little communication with the hospital staff. I mean, we literally had to call up there and ask for the charge nurse to find out anything about him. And from the last time that we talked to him via FaceTime, that was the last time we talked to him physically, and then he passed several days later. And so they did let us go in, and we did get closure there of taking him off of life support because he had already passed. And so he had a pacemaker that we had to shut down so that his body would go on and pass too. And so it was trauma, but at the same time, my dad had seen heaven before. And so he had 2 heart attacks. On the second one, when he was in the hospital with it, he kind of passed out on me, and I shook him, and he came back. And he goes, "I was there," and I went, "You were where, Dad?" He goes, "I was I was in heaven, fishing with Uncle Fred." And I went, Fishing.
And so there's fish in heaven.
Yeah, there's fishing in heaven. I'll tell you that. And so it was really interesting to see that dynamic, that he was depressed for a while because he hadn't had the ability to, he couldn't stay. And so he knew the reality of heaven. And so I think, when he was not afraid of death, and so he didn't care. So when COVID took him, he was just in heaven, and we grieved, but we knew, I knew that he was tired. He wanted to go home. We knew that.
How long was that before he passed away? That the experience to heaven?
It was about 2 years.
2 years.
the heart attack took over.
So after that experience, you think he was ready?
He longed to be there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know, because I think, you know, that first 6 months after that second heart attack, and he had to have a pacemaker put in, he was angry that he came back. You know, and it was kind of funny because it's like, sorry, I shook you because I knew to do that. If you went into AFib, shake you, and he came back just like this person had told me, and but he was ready to go. He had seen heaven. He saw glory, and so it's like, and that kind of gave me a comfort too. You know, you know that they're in heaven.
Yeah. Wow.
And that there is a heaven.
Wow. So God really prepared your heart even 2 years ago. Wow. That's really a blessing.
Both of us had an experience with him before he actually passed away, and I guess similar in some ways, except I don't know that I really saw him, but I knew he was there. And I told him it would be okay if he needed to go. We gave him permission.
You mean you had a dream or something?
It was a vision, kind of a vision. But I knew, I don't know if I saw it so much as I just knew he was there. I knew I could feel him there. And I had been praying for him and stuff. And so I felt him, and I said, that's okay. We'll take care of everything. You know, if you need to go, it's all right.
And that was the crazy thing. I mean, he did that the day before to her, and then I'm interceding for healing over him.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just in a really, you know, just intense time of worship, you know, and just decreeing and declaring.
Yeah.
And I heard he spoke to me, you know, and I'm just going, it's not like I was trying to conjure him up or anything like that. It was just, God just opened up the heavens and led us. And it's like, we didn't ask that. It was that God just did it. And he said, Mikey, and of course my name's Mike, and he said, I'm tired. I said, Dad, it's okay. You can go home. And
that's not vision. That's real, right?
That was an audible voice to me.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just told him, I said, it's okay to go home. And that's the day, that's pretty much the moment he died.
Wow.
And I didn't tell Mike.
She didn't.
Until he passed away, I didn't tell him what I had seen.
Wow.
And knew, because it's like I don't want to influence anybody else on what I felt like, you know, I had heard. And
and you know, and even with my mom, God had already prepared me that he was going to take her this year. And I didn't know how, when, where, and all that stuff. I just knew that he was going to do it. And I dreamed this in this dream, and that's why I knew where she was going, because Dad's, when he was over there in heaven, he was fishing. She came up to me, and she was like in her 20s. She was a beautiful lady in her 20s and stuff, and she had all this energy, and she goes, I'm going fishing. And that was the one thing that Dad and her didn't do a lot of. Dad went fishing because he needed time away, because he was her caretaker. And so whenever she said, I'm going fishing, that would be the meaning that would be a joy to her, to be by him again, you know. And so I went, wow, okay. And so that's kind of how, I mean, never expected that. And then even she came and hugged me, like we talked before, of whenever I was praying while she was in the hospital. And whenever she hugged me, and you know, I said, oh, I thought it was an angel, and I went, no, that's Mom. She's not going to make it. So I knew then that God wasn't going to heal her, that he wanted her home. And so that's kind of how, whenever I look at it, I see the supernatural side of what God was doing. It was like, I need them home now. Same way with Janis' mom. They needed to be on the other side to be with him. You know, I told Mom, I said, I don't think you're going to be this little baby angel on these clouds. I think you're going to be part of the angel army fixing to wage war against the enemy on the earth. So that's kind of how I looked at it, is that it's the promotion. And and that's kind of we see in those realms too.
Yeah.
But we need to understand that God has plans and things for us to do, and that was just their time here on earth to go into that His unlimited time.
Yeah. You really have a very different perspective. I think that's the word, perspective, because many Christians, they also believe in God and they also believe in heaven and they believe in healing. They know, if we pray, God will heal my mom, my dad, my beloved ones. And so they get offended when the healing is not happen. Sometimes they could just say, "Oh God, how could you, not doing this? And why you didn't hear my prayer? And why, So they have just so many why questions, and because things is not happening according to their will, their plan, and then they just completely offended and leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know some people, they just leave the church because of that, because of loss of their mom. So,
well, and the thing is that then their relationship is not very deep, because He loves us no matter what, and He loves us deeply. And whenever you look, when you see people do that, it's that person was more of a God to them than the Holy God, Father.
Yeah.
We when we were first, I guess we were married about 2 years, and we had a brother-in-law that was killed in an accident, car accident, and it was sudden and fast and everything. And so, we had dealt with some death before, and that was such a heartbreaking one, because it was my sister's husband. She had one little girl, and she was pregnant with the other one. And so, but and that was a lot harder,
and they were
to
also
understand.
strong believers.
Yeah.
He was, and they both were. But he had. I think God had showed him some things that he knew that he was going to go.
Wow! Before the accident.
Even about 6 months before, I think he had told Lynn some things and stuff, and so it was a huge shock to the whole family and stuff. But
I remember
that was the first really, death that
we had to go through.
I knew somebody that well, and stuff. He had really become like a brother to me, and stuff. And
I remember the first time when I met Nana. First time she she told me she knew about the loss of your brother-in-law. I don't know why, she just told me the story. She said that God also showed her something.
Yes.
Wow. So wow, that's how you could really face that.
She had I think it was like a vision, and she thought it was an angel maybe that spoke to her and said, "He's not here long, or he's not long for this earth," or something like that. And she kind of dismissed it, but kept it in her mind. And
so sounds like it's really important to have that intimate relationship with God, because He would comfort our heart and He will tell us the truth. Because many times when we are so sad or so offended, it's because we believe the lies of the enemy. The enemy often say, "Oh, God doesn't love you." See, He didn't
see what He did.
See what He did, and so that's how if we really trust those voice, and then we just of course we can have that hatred towards God, and even just stay in that depression or sadness forever, the grieving mode. So, but because God spoke to you like ahead, even before the things gonna happen, and so you could quickly get out of the lies, or quickly get out of the
grief.
The grief.
Yeah, because grief can it's okay to grieve, but you can't go on forever because you have life, and they want us to live life.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's really big because, you know, I had a rough time with that. It's because I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I had to get, you know, it was one of those things. I had a friend call me and just kind of help me and kind of shock me into, you know, getting out of the grief, that atmosphere of grief, because it doesn't bring healing. It brings sorrow. So the more you, you know, like grieving for mom hasn't been bad because, you know, we've grieved a little bit, but at the point we knew it was going to happen. So we were ready. So when she passed, it wasn't heart-wrenching than to most people. But once you got to get out of that grief, because then that grief can become a spirit of grief and tie you down.
Yes. Yeah, so that was 2020, and then and your mom passed away this year.
Yeah, 7 weeks ago.
Yeah, 7 years. And then moms, your parents, your dad passed away first 2020.
No,
23.
Yeah, March of 23.
And then mom this year, so 24.
Yeah, so it's really like within 5 years, like
Lost everyone.
4 of them. Yeah. So is there anything other experience that you want to share? You can share with us, like how could you you know, face that, like your dad first and your mom. And I know you spent a lot of time with, especially your mom, like the last 2 years. So is there anything?
I think, well, I started, they were needing extra help, and so they asked me to do what they thought